Hi, and welcome to Helpful Tips when teaching with Zoom or Google Meet here on Learning the Social Sciences. COVID-19 has changed the way many of us are teaching in the 2020-2021 school year. We are now Zooming instead of being in our room. We are Google Meeting instead of meeting in person. And so to help everybody, I'm making this quick tutorial to go through some helpful tips to make you successful using Google Meet or Zoom from day one. I'm not focusing on the technological aspects, but more so the educational ones. So let's jump right into it. Before the students show up, you need to go through and make sure that you know how to use all the functions of the programming so that you can accomplish what you want to accomplish for your lesson. Also, make sure that you just generally understand all the features in case the students have a question for you. So there are a whole bunch of videos on YouTube that you can watch for the technological aspects to know how to go and do annotations, to know how to do the interactive whiteboard. And I myself am making more tutorials on Zoom. So if you are doing Zoom instead of Google Meet, definitely come back to Learning the Social Sciences here on YouTube and check out the videos that I am making to help you be more successful. So a very good starting point is to Zoom or Google Meet with fellow teachers or with a spouse, family members, or even if need be, just with yourself so that you can walk through all of the functions you will be using when you're teaching to your students. Don't just assume you're tech savvy and can jump right into it and figure it out when the students are staring at you. For example, if you want to play sound or a video, the natural setting within Zoom is going to have the audio be picked up through your microphone no matter what. So if you play a song, it's going to play externally through your laptop speakers, be picked up through your microphone, and then sent off to the students. It sounds fine for you, but it sounds like a garbled mess for your students. Nobody wants that. So make sure that you go in and pick the correct sound settings before you go and do your Meet or your Zoom so that the students can hear exactly what they are supposed to hear. If you're using another device that's going to be also connected with your laptop and you're going to be switching between the two, for example, you're using a document camera or an iPad, make sure that you know how to jump between the different ones. Again, there's a whole bunch of YouTube videos to go and help you with this, and I also will be making some. If you're doing breakout rooms, again, know how to do that. And this is what's fun if you go and do this with fellow teachers or with friends and you throw them into different breakout rooms and they all start clicking that they need your help and you start jumping in between the different rooms. It can be funny, but it also helps you see what it is going to be like when you are a teacher going live with your students. Also know how to use your interactive whiteboard if you're going to be using that. Of course, that's very important, for example, the sciences and math, that you can do that. Also for a lot of things and activities that you're going to be doing in elementary school. But take note, if you are using Zoom and your students have Chromebooks, the interactive whiteboard does not work on a Chromebook for Zoom. This is being filmed in August 2020, so hopefully Zoom is going to be addressing this issue. But if they don't, you cannot use an interactive whiteboard with a Chromebook. So you might be able to do it if you have a laptop, but your students, for example, I'm at a one-to-one Chromebook school. All of my students have Chromebooks. So if I assume ahead of time my students can easily go and use that whiteboard, it's never good to find that out mid-lesson. They can't. So yeah, be always ready for technological oopsies. They're going to happen. So before you actually start your first class, I am going to be sending out a list of expectations to my students for when we're going to be Zooming. And it's good if you do that as well. That way the students know exactly what to expect when they come into your Zoom room or Google Meet. And of course, I can't tell you exactly how to run your classroom. There's differences between the secondary and elementary level, but also there's just differences between teachers. But I'm going to throw out some questions that you can think about when creating your own set of expectations. For example, do they have to have their cameras on or off while they are meeting? Of course, we all want them to probably be highly engaged and have their cameras on, But I have some students that are going to be using hotspots because they live in rural areas, and hotspots don't always work very well for Zooming or Google Meeting. It can cause them to have the audio constantly freeze up on them. Their camera is also freezing up on them. And so if they turn their camera off, they might actually be able to hear and listen better. So this is something that in my set of expectations, when I share this ahead of time and I say, if you are using a hotspot, please email me so I know ahead of time that you might have to turn your camera off due to technological reasons. And then we're all on the same page, and I can figure out how to also make sure that that student is engaged and that they don't just have the Zoom room going while they're in the next room, I don't know, building something on Minecraft. Also, make sure whether or not they should have the sound muted or not. Of course, that can change from moment to moment in the classroom, but make sure that they know how to do it and when they should be muting or unmuting themselves. Can they have a fun background or not? Some students really love to go and play with the fun backgrounds. They themselves want to be green screen professionals, but some of the fun backgrounds might turn into a bit of a distraction. So make sure you set those parameters, especially in middle school. What do they do if they get logged out? What are the steps to get back into the Zoom room? Make sure that they know that. And if they can't because just the internet keeps conking out, that they know how to email you later on or how they could get in contact with you. I'm obviously not in my classroom when I am Zooming. I am going to be at home. But my students could still call my school and leave a message on my extension, and it will be emailed to me so I can even listen if their internet is really down, but they can still make a phone call. I can know that they're okay, but just something happened. Another thing to think about is, should they physically raise their hand when asking a question, or should they press the raise the hand icon, or maybe the combination of the two, so that you know that you are going to see and acknowledge their question. Also, if they can use the chat feature, how can they use it? I myself only have it so that they can share with everyone, the group, or me, the host, or on some days, only me as the host, just to make sure that everything is going to be running smoothly. But of course, you get to decide what is best for you. So the students are now actually going to be coming into the room. What do? Well, I tend to wait until I get a few in the waiting room. And then when I have about 2 or 3, I start to let them in. I can play music, get a little jive going on there, talk to them, and have a good time. That is building community rapport. That thing as educators that we love to do. Have the students know that they are special. I also, on other days, because I'm not dance partying every day, have a list of questions that I ask the students as they come into the room. Yes, I can go out some days with some generic questions about, what's your favorite ice cream, things like that. Or I can go and ask other questions that might be semi-related to the content, or that, it's just asking about kind of their life and how things are going. It, of course, depends how many are in the room when I'm able to get in there. But, it's something that's very good. I also like to welcome each student by name as they come in. Now, I do recognize, because it does happen, that sometimes I am having the Zoom room start exactly at 10 o'clock when the class starts at 10 because, life happens, and sometimes you are signing in at the last second yourself. And then you can't say hi to everybody coming in. And you have to give the generic beginning. But if you are able to log in 5 minutes prior, and just like if you're a secondary teacher and you have that 5 minutes in between class and the students are coming and just chit-chatting with you, that you can do that still, it's great and wonderful for them and also yourself as an educator to still have that time. So, now that they're there, go over the ground rules. Tell the students when they can and cannot talk, when they should have the mute on and the mute off. Discuss again whether or not they can have their camera on or off, things about the chat setting. Give educational pointers to your students about their backgrounds, not the ones that they can go and pick and choose. But for example, if you notice that there is somebody where in the background you're noticing 2 siblings playing catch with a ball, that might not be the best thing. If they could just switch around maybe to the other side of the table, it might be a little bit better. Also, I primarily have high schoolers. They shouldn't be lying in their bed with the blankets up. No, that's not a really good place that's conducive for learning. So I, again, ahead of time in my expectations, I make sure that they know they should be in some sort of educational setting where they can actually think, listen, and learn. For smaller children, having a page with pictures of the icons for Zoom available is really going to help because they don't always have a parent right there the second they need to unmute themselves to answer a question or to just simply engage with you. But if you can point to the icon for mute and the student sees that, then they can go themselves and press that. So number 5, make sure the students are appropriately named. If they need to go and change their names, make sure they do it and they also know how. For my students to be able to come into my classroom, they need to have the name that is either on the grade book or, slightly shortened. Like if they're named William, they can come in as Will, but their last name should match up. Now, there might be some students that do not want to go by that name. Again, sending out that expectation sheet ahead of time and saying, just email me if you're going to be coming in under a different name. Let them know that you can recognize that ahead of time and it'll be all good for when they're coming into your classroom. So when they are actually in there and you're done dancing and grooving and jiving, explain what's going to happen for the course. It's kind of like having your objective on the board for the day, which of course, principals love, but explaining what will happen technologically will make sure that they don't have any tech surprises. Discuss the routine for the Zoom session. If you're going to be using the whiteboard or annotations with the students, let them know. Let them especially know if they're going to be using Nearpod or Kahoot or some sort of external app so that they can be ready for that and that they might actually be ready for example, if they're on a hotspot for maybe some internet tech issues and that you are ready, that maybe they actually have to totally sign out of Zoom, only be in Kahoot, and then come back into Zoom afterwards so that you can express that to them ahead of time and that they know it and it'll all be good and they can still be participating. More importantly, if these are very young students, elementary, make sure to tell what's going to be happening tech-wise so the adult nearby will know that they can help them switch apps or help them with a whiteboard or help them with anything. So it will just make life easier. I even let them know if we're going to be doing breakout rooms for the day, which is pretty easy, but it's just nice that the students know that that is going to be happening. And every once in a while, you might have somebody go and private message you, please don't put me in a group with so-and-so, blah, 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 blah. And you're trying to teach will also read, the story as to why they don't want to be together in the same breakout room. So, life happens. Be ready for those moments. So keeping the students engaged, as you're talking, say the names of the student from time to time. One, it brings them back in case they are starting to lose a little bit of focus, but it also is showing that you are watching them and that you are appreciating the fact that they are there and learning. If you have a larger class, say 3 names or so at a time, just to give that positive reinforcement. And of course, whenever you can, ask questions and make sure that they can answer them. So it's really good if you are constantly interacting them, much like you will do in your normal classroom. Of course, be cognizant that the first week or two, when students are mute, unmute, that it's going to take a little bit longer with those question answer times, but they will get better and your lessons will suddenly speed up faster and faster and faster. And hey, I guess they're probably going to be whizzes by it or with the program by October. So just note that. And just for yourself, make sure you really go through, understand the technology, know what is going on so that you don't have dead air time and that you don't have any of those anxious moments where you're kind of like, uh-oh, what is going on? Either way, have fun with using Zoom or Google Meet. You and your students will be able to learn, you'll be able to teach, and you will all grow comfortable with this new learning program. So don't try too much at once, but just be able to learn with your students as you are Zooming and Google Meeting. Again, I will be placing more Zoom tutorials here on learning the social sciences. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below, or if you're looking for specific tutorials, definitely ask them down in the comments section. And remember to like and subscribe. Thank you very much for joining me. Bye-bye.